we are going to try this again. My name is Prakash Boyd. I'm the owner of Prakash Organics, and today we're going to talk about why you want to do chemical peels. I just did this a little bit ago, but I lost my volume when someone called in. So now I've figured out the do not disturb function on my phone, and we'll see if that fixes it. Okay, so let's talk chemical peels and why you would want to get them. So what a chemical peel is basically a controlled wound on the face. And please don't allow the term chemical peel, don't allow it to scare you because of the fact that, yes, it is a chemical because of the nature of chemistry, but a lot of chemical peels can be plant-based. So for instance, cosmetics uses a lot of acids that are derived from beets, bitter almond, things like that. So just because it's called a chemical peel does not mean that like caustic chemicals are being applied to your face. It's called a chemical peel because what we're using on your skin to create the cold controlled wound is typically acids. And in chemistry, those are chemicals. Okay, so there are different types of chemical peels, okay? You've got your AHA chemical peels, which consist of glycolic acid, which I'm not a huge fan of because there's no receptor site in your skin for. Glycolic acid originally was sourced from sugarcane, but DuPont was able to figure out a synthetic version of it, which is now patented. So almost all glycolic acid in skincare is actually the chemical made by DuPont. And it's super, super, super cheap, which is why so many skincare companies tend to use glycolic acid because it's always cheaper usually to get a synthetic version of something than something that actually is derived from nature. Then you've got your citric acid, which comes from citrus fruits. You've got your tartaric acid, which comes from grapes. You've got your lactic acid, which a lot of it comes from dairy, but it also can come from like tomatoes, beets, like the cosmetics. Lactic acid is actually table beets, not sugar beets, the GMO version, but the table beets, the one we eat. And then you have your malic acid, which comes from fruits. Let's see. Malic acid is in apples. Okay, and mandelic acid is bitter almond. So those are the alpha hydroxy acids used in chemical peels, and they work more superficially. Okay, and as alpha hydroxy acids stay more on the surface of the skin. The difference between like using a product that has some of these alpha hydroxy acids in it and something that is a chemical peel is in a chemical peel, it's going to be a much higher strength typically and a lower pH. Because when it comes to chemical peels, the pH plays just as big of a role as the percentage of acids are being used, okay? And then you have your beta hydroxy acid. There's only one beta hydroxy acid, that's salicylic acid. The beauty of salicylic acid is it goes and drops down into a pore and exfoliates inside the pore and pushes out, which is why you tend to see a lot of salicylic acid in acneic skin products, congested skin, acne-based peels, things like that, because it goes down in and pushes out the blackheads and things like that. Then you got your retinoids, retinol, retinoic acid, tretinoin, retinoaldehyde, and then like all the different retinoid derivatives. So those also can be turned into a chemical peel at higher doses. And then you have your most commonly TCA and Gesner's. So TCA's, Gesner's, I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth about today. So first I want to talk about TCA. It's also a chemical peel ingredient that I don't choose to work with because it is on the Proposition 65 list in California. It is a known, thought to be a known carcinogen. And what it stands for is trichloroacetic acid. Trichloroacetic acid. And it's just an individual ingredient. So that is the other thing with chemical peels. When you put a straight acid on someone's face, it has to be neutralized. So if you're just using just glycolic acid, even though a lot of glycolic acid peels now are buffered and they have their, they shut off on their own. But, if you use straight salicylic acid, straight TCA, things like that. Why am I saying things like that? You don't know. Salicylic acid, TCA, what are some other ones that have to be neutralized? You have to put a neutralizer on the skin to get them to quit working. Whereas when you use peels that are cocktailed together, they're blended, those are self-neutralizing, and you don't have to put a neutralizer on the skin to stop the function of the peel. TCA usually has to be neutralized. The other thing that is with TCA is it can go pretty deep. So at a 20% TCA, you can only have your peels 4 to 7 weeks together. And then a 25% TCA is 2 to 4 months. So it goes to show you how deep the TCA can actually go into the tissues. Or a Gesner is a cocktail peel on its own. So Jesner actually was created by a German-American dermatologist back in the 1940s. And what a Jesner, his name was Max Jesner. So of course he named it after himself. That was the thing you did in science at that time. And apparently only old white men discovered things. So everything's named after white men. But anyway, with the Jesners, it's 14% resorcinol, 14% salicylic acid, and 14% lactic acid. That's what makes it a Jesner. So the beauty of a Jesner is it is self-neutralizing. You don't have to neutralize it. And you make it stronger by applying multiple layers of it. So with TCA, you can also apply multiple layers, but you can increase it by increasing the percentages. Whereas Jesner, once you've got 5 to 6 layers on the skin, there's no point in putting any more layers on because the peel can only go so deep down into the tissues. Okay, so there's also the other thing that I thought was interesting when I was researching Mr. Max Jesner. This is terrifying. The reason why he actually created the Jesner peel was he used to be in the Navy, and he created it as an antiseptic for the Marines to help prevent spreading infection. So what happened was he noticed that not only was it not spreading infection among the crew, because resorcinol, what resorcinol is used for is to treat a whole bunch of medical skin conditions. So resorcinol on its own, they use it to treat seborrheic dermatitis, eczema, psoriasis, corns, calluses, warts. It's really good at removing hard, scaly, roughened skin, okay? So he put it in this combination with salicylic acid and lactic. He noticed the sailors had radiant, glowing skin. So then what happened is the sailors actually started using it as their aftershave. Now, the other thing that this told me was how terrifying skincare products were back in the 1940s and 50s, because I would never in a million years shave my face and then put Jesner on it. So to me, that just told me that it was normal for your skin to burn like crazy when you used beauty products. like I would rather have an open wound and pour container of hydrogen peroxide on it before I would put Jesner on it as an antiseptic. But anywho, so that's how it was created. And now it's used, it's a standard in the industry as a chemical peel. It's a very common ingredient. Multiple companies make it. Okay, so then there's 3 different types of chemical peels, different levels. So you've got more of your mild, medium depth peels, which really only work on the top layers of the epidermis. They're only going to cause like light flaking to more heavier flaking, but you're never going to get a peeling sensation. Then you have your medium depth peels, and medium depth peels tend to peel more, and when you get to your medium depth, it's because they're peeling into the deeper parts of the epidermis up into the papillary level of the dermis. So the papillary level basically is right before like the tiny little capillaries and veins and things like that start. So you can't draw blood with doing a chemical peel. You can't peel somebody so deep with a medium depth peel that it actually causes it to go that deep down into the tissues. The medium depth stops right at that papillary dermis. And it peels more like, I mean, I've seen it peel different ways, but it's most commonly you see more sheets of skin peeling off like a sunburn or a snake. And that's because that's the nature of what Jesner and TCAs do. Whereas I've also seen other peels like the deep sea peel that uses the spicules, that tends to crumble off the skin. And then you have your deep peels, which deep peels can only be performed by a physician, and usually for it to be a deep peel is you're talking about these like 25% TCAs and your phenols. And the reason why only a physician can do those is deep is actually going down and past that papillary dermis. It can cause skin blanching, which then causes hypopigmentation, which is completely, it's not reversible. So that's the thing. If you create hyperpigmentation by doing chemical peels, it happens for a couple reasons. If you get hyperpigmentation from a chemical peel, it's one because there was something going on with your skin, like your skin was inflamed, and then you put a chemical peel on the top of it and you created too much inflammation. This is why I'm not a fan of putting chemical peels over the top of microneedling, because it can create too much inflammation in the wrong Fitzpatrick's, and then you create hyperpigmentation. And then it can also happen because the client doesn't follow good post-care. They either expose themselves to the sun, they pick at it, they pull at it, and they're not doing proper post-care, and then that can hyperpigment. The thing with that, though, is you can do more chemical peels or laser treatments and remove that pigment out of the skin. But when you've hypopigmented yourself, you can't fix that. The other thing is that there's a difference between frosting and blanching. So particularly when you're working with Jesner peels or higher salicylic acids, you can get this superficial frosting on the tissues. That just means that the peel is doing its magic. It's not a bad thing. Blanching is where you literally have hit blood vessels and it like your skin turns white because the blood has left the area. So no, you cannot blanch somebody with Jesner. Okay. So there are some peels out there like the VI peel and the Perfect Derma peel that do have phenol in them. Those are peels that can be performed by estheticians, but you do have to have like a medical director or a physician on staff. So even though they have phenol in them, because they're cocktailed, they self-neutralize. You don't have to stop the action of them. So those are those peels. The reason why you want to get chemical peels is because it makes your skin healthier. What happens over time is your cellular turnover process slows down, okay? So you start building up like this helmet of dead skin cells on your face. And nothing at home that you use is going to get that out of the way. Your enzymatics, no matter the amount of scrubbing that you do on your face, it cannot go away once it gets built up to that point. The only way you can get the skin removed once it is built up is through dermaplaning, chemical peels, and laser resurfacing treatments. I personally prefer chemical peels. I think the and the laser skin treatments if you after chemical peels. I'm not as big of a fan of dermaplaning for the I am if you put a chemical peel over the top. But the reason why I'm not as big of a fan of using dermaplaning for the main purpose of getting rid of that all the buildup and then also with the lasers is because it's not putting anything into your skin. So like with dermaplaning, you are not going to increase collagen production. With chemical peels and lasers, you will increase collagen production. With chemical peels, you're also there's other ingredients in them that actually can help. Retinoids. A lot of chemical peels have glutathione and things like that, antioxidants. It's giving your skin things to help renew and regenerate and tighten up and stimulate that collagen. Whereas dermaplaning doesn't put anything in your skin. It's just a superficial treatment. And then with lasers, they work by increasing collagen production because they're creating a wound. But again, they're not putting any ingredients in your skin for your skin to become happier and healthier. So my whole thing is do chemical peels first before you, or dermaplane and then do chemical peels. Because it's going to stimulate the collagen production. It's also going to get skin out of the way. So when you go do the other type of procedures, they work a lot better. So when it comes to microneedling can only go in so deep into the skin. And the top layer of skin is dead. Like the needling going through the top layer is not going to improve your skin in any way. It's got to get down into the dermis to really make the changes in the tissues. So with a handheld device, a needle can only go in 2.5. And in the radio frequency devices, most of them only go 3.5. There's a new system out there called Profound by Candela that I've been told may go as far as 4.5, but I haven't fully researched it yet. Okay, so when you do the chemical peels, it removes the skin out of the way. So when you do the microneedling, the devices can go in deeper. Same with laser treatments. If you're doing a laser resurfacing or a laser skin tightening, the skin, because you've put chemical peels on it, your skin has become healthier. Your now home care is working better. I'll touch on that in a minute. Your home care is working better. So your skin overall is healthier. And so then the laser and radio frequency and all those types of services are going to work better on your skin. So because your skin's healthier. So this is why I'm such a huge fan of chemical peels. Once you get to age 26 to 30, your cellular turnover process turns down. You know, you used to turn over your cells babies turn over cells every 16 days. Teenagers and early 20s, your skin's turning over 28 days. Once you hit about 30, girlfriend, it's slowing down. So when you're 50, the skin that normally would turn over in 28 days is now sticking on your skin for like 45 to 50 days. That's why we use retinoids, because retinoids speed up that cellular renewal, that turnover process. But products can only do so much. So what the chemical peels do is they basically get rid of that horny buildup layer. And by doing that, everything works better. It's pretty much why derma rollers were created. Those 0.25 derma rollers that, honestly, I don't know why estheticians would ever recommend them. Some of them do. Dermatologists I've seen do it. What it's doing is it's just putting a whole bunch of, tiny little holes in that horny, dead skin layer, the helmet of dead skin cells, I call it. So your home care can penetrate better. If you just did a chemical peel, you would remove it all out of the way. You wouldn't just be poking through dead skin, and then everything can work better. So when you're using home care and you have a buildup of dead skin cells on your face, you are only absorbing about 10 to 20% of the serums and things that you're putting on your skin. So again, this is another reason why I'm like, chemical peels. Again, you could do a dermaplaning to also help this issue, but the dermaplaning is only removing surface skin. It is not increasing collagen production in any way. The other thing with chemical peels is that if you're trying to purge the skin of stuff, if you have acne, it is going to get everything out of the skin, the pores. So when I had acne for 15 years. I started developing acne when I was 16 years old, when I went on the pharmaceutical medication lithium as a teenager. They diagnosed me as being depressed. I really had ADD, but they didn't know what ADD looked like in women at my age. It was only affected boys. So they put me on the wrong meds. I was on lithium for a couple years. It can take 10 to 20 years. I was only on lithium for about 2 years, maybe. It gave me horrible acne. I started getting acne all over my forehead, my upper, like I had acne. Embarrassing, not what a teenager should be experiencing acne. And they say it takes 10 to 20 years to be removed from your system because it's a natural salt. So for me, I did things that kept my skin at bay, but I never had a clear face. Like I think maybe one day I'd have a clear face and the next day it would pop up. But I always had something going on. I definitely had acneic skin. And I wouldn't take Accutane. So when I found cosmetics and started doing the chemical peels, cosmetics was the very first product line that really cleared my skin up, like truly cleared it up. And then the chemical peels completely changed it. I do also know that my body was getting towards the end of detoxing out the drugs. So I do also acknowledge that, like I was kind of getting towards the end of that 10 to 20 year span, but cosmetics just kind of got out the rest of it. Okay. So what I noticed is I started out mild, and then I eventually transitioned into stronger things. Because once you start doing chemical peels, you're like, this shit is amazing. And you're like, I don't have time for that baby mild stuff. Like, we're going in. The amount of crap that came out of my skin over a 2-year period blew my mind. I tended to always use more natural products from the beginning because I was a hippie girl. When I was a kid, my mom sewed all of my clothes and canned all of our food, if that tells you anything. But over a 2-year period, every time I did a peel, like this gunk would come out and this gunk would come out. The amount of milia that came out of my skin, like I started doing peels and sometimes my texture would get worse. And that's the reason why is because I had these textural issues. Then more dead skin cells covered them up. So then as I started peeling away the layers, this stuff that was trapped in my skin just started coming out. So it's another reason why I'm a huge fan of chemical peels, is because it removes stuff from your skin that you don't even really realize is in there. The nature of chemical peels, whether you use a chemical peel that is for purging your acneic conditions or not, because they're stimulating, they can cause purging. They can cause you to break out. One of the things I see the most purging and getting out the gunk with is people who are using petroleum and petroleum paste products as well. Because what happens is when you're using petroleum and petroleum byproduct-based products, and you're putting them on your skin every day, it does get built up in your pores. And so you're not breaking out because it's just, you keep feeding it, okay? So the skin doesn't stop, the skin doesn't try to purge and get all that gunk out because they know in the AM and the PM, you're just going to keep putting it back. But once you go off those petroleum byproducts, which 90% of the skincare on the market is, once you start going off those byproducts and transitioned into a more plant-based skincare line that's corrective, the skin starts detoxing. And I cannot tell you how many emails I've gotten over the years where people are like, I'm breaking out like crazy now because they were using a petroleum-based line and they switched everything over at once to cosmetics. So, they go into like a $500 skincare routine. And I tell them, FYI, this is really stimulating. You definitely could break out. Well, they do. They definitely do. So that's one of the other reasons why we love doing the chemical peels, is because it speeds that process up. So that's kind of my TED Talk on why you should do chemical peels. Your skin slows down. We want to speed it up. The cellular turnover. You get buildup on the skin that you have to go outside the home to try to remove that if you want a more, like the reason why I have such a glowy, beautiful complexion at 42 is because I keep that cellular buildup off my skin. I use my retinoids 9 months out of the year. I do chemical peels off and on during chemical peel season. And that's how I keep my skin looking like I still have pigment issues and laxity issues, but in regards to like the way my skin looks, I get compliments on my skin every day. I have had people, especially like if I wear my hair wrap and my head's covered so you can't see any of my gray, I literally have had wait staff be absolutely shocked. Like I've had people look at my ID and they are floored that I am actually older than they are sometimes. Like it catches them by surprise. It's really funny. Those are my favorite moments, is when you can't see my hair and people are really shocked at the clarity and brightness and glowness of my of my skin. Chemical peels. I'm not doing laser treatments. I mean, I have done a few over the years. I did IPL twice, and I tried a Clear and Brilliant once when it was being demoed at the medical spa I worked at. And I've had like maybe 5 microneedling sessions in my life. Just because I do them doesn't mean I'm good at getting stuff done on myself. So the majority of my skincare results has been home care and chemical peels. So does anybody have any questions? Oh, fantastic. We will absolutely, you just contact me. So that's the other thing when it comes to, even if you don't, so what chemical peels do is they're going to resurface your skin. They're going to take pigment out of your skin. They're going to remove scarring from your skin. You can remove so many things from the skin by doing chemical peels. Okay. So because of that, but then also some people like chemical peels aren't their thing. They don't want to have the medium depth style. Like if you really want to make changes in the skin, you really kind of got to go medium at some point. The milds only go so far, whereas the mediums, like the whole point of the mild, the medium, and the deep, it's because they go into different layers of the skin. They go deeper and deeper, right? So when it comes to milder peels, when you do skin consults with me, I almost always recommend that people do at least just 2, ideally, chemical peels with me, because of the fact that the home care that you're going to purchase is going to work 1 billion times better if you have that build up on your skin and we remove it. So if you just did like 2 to 4 mild chemical peels just to get some mild flaking, to get that skin off your face, it'll make your home care work a lot better. If you're trying to make more changes in the skin where you're removing scarring, you want to actually get at pigment, things like that in the skin, that's when you really kind of need to move up to more of your medium depth peels. You start out with mild, but then you transition into them. And if you're just doing it to make your skincare work better, you can do 2. If you're trying to make significant changes in your skin, you're going to probably need a series of 4 to 5 of them. Some people have gone as many as 6. And then I tell people to absolutely take a break. And then at that point, at like 5 to 6, if we haven't been able to get the pigment and things out that we're wanting to, that's when I recommend going and doing the IPL treatments and the machines. Get what you can with the chemical peels and then go in with the lasers. Lasers hurt. I'd way rather have a chemical peel. And I actually ship peel kits. Thanks, COVID. I've been doing chemical peels for 10 years. So if you want to get on and schedule a Zoom peel consultation with me and you decide to work with me, how it works is I actually ship you the professional peels and we have a meeting over Zoom and I walk you through the entire application process with you. So it doesn't matter where you live. I have actually shipped peel kits to Germany. I can do them anywhere. Okay, so the Benefit Peel. I'm so glad you popped back in here, beautiful. Okay, so the Benefit Peel is actually the first chemical peel I fell in love with through the cosmetics line because it's super gentle, but then also really gets the job done. They used to kind of advertise it with like gentle as a feather but hard as nails. This particular chemical peel contains L-lactic acid and L-ascorbic acid. It's 20% L-ascorbic acid and 10% of their AGP protein delivery system retinoid process. And the thing with retinoids, this is why I never just do a Jesner on its own. I will always top every chemical peel I do with a retinoid topper. And it's also why in your skincare routine, retinoids always tend to fall towards the very end of your routine before you put eye product and hydrators on. Anything you put on underneath a retinoid is going to be driven deeper into the skin, okay? So the beauty of this Benefit Peel is that there's also an uptake mechanism in retinoids. And then in this particular peel, like it will, the cellular layer uses it, and then it moves on to the next cellular layer if there's any ingredient left, and then it uses what it can, and then it moves up to the next cellular and the next cellular layer. So the reason why this particular Benefit Peel is so beneficial is because of the fact that it is very gentle because of this uptake mechanism. It goes slow. You can actually have micro peeling for like up to, I've seen it to 2 to 2.5 weeks in some clients. So it's gentle because it goes slow into the skin, but it's hard as nails because it keeps going into the skin. So what my experience with Benefit Peel was, I've noticed that this is the absolute best. You can't put Jesner underneath it, but this is the most amazing peel for people who have really kind of more that older, frail skin that you don't know how they're going to handle a chemical peel. Like you're a little nervous to put something that has a low pH on them. People who have rosacea, people who have really sensitive skin. I've healed rosacea with this peel. I've taken them from a rosacea 2 to a rosacea 1 and then make it look like they don't even have rosacea anymore. To the point where I was able to heal their skin with the Benefit Peel, and I was able to put them on Refine or Serum 16, and their skin did fantastic with it. What was I going to say about? Okay, so my experience with Benefit Peel, I really highly recommend you do it in a series because you start really noticing the difference on the third and fourth peel. So for me, I was at and I do think it needs to be done a week and a half to 2 weeks apart. I keep them tight, tight, tight. So I was on my third peel and I had gone into the bathroom and put moisturizer on my face. That was back when I was using moisturizers. Not a fan of them anymore. But it was back when I was using moisturizers, and I came out and I went to scratch something on my skin, and my skin just started, I thought my product was pilling. So you know when you put skincare products on and they don't always blend well and they pill, P-I-L-L, and roll off the skin? I thought that's what it was happening. And I was like, I've used this moisturizer for years and that's never happened. So I kept doing it and it kept pilling and pilling. And then I was like, oh my gosh, what happened was the moisturizer rehydrated all the skin that was going to microflake off. And because it rehydrated it, I'm literally like just rolling it off my skin like a gamage. That's when I was like, okay, Benefit Peel really, really does work. It's really not messing around. It is gentle, but it really does go in there and make changes in the tissues. So when I first started doing chemical peels, I was 31 years old. I'm 42 now. And I only started with the mild. I couldn't even get Jesner at the time because in the state of Oregon, they didn't allow estheticians to have that low pH of a chemical peel. So I couldn't even order Jesner in, but I could get Timeless. I wasn't touching medium depth peels yet though, because my whole thing and philosophy with chemical peels is I do not do chemical peels on people that I have not done on myself. Let me tell you, I have jacked up my skin in ways that I did not think I was going to heal from. And I did. So glad it was my face and not my clients. So I always performed everything on myself. And because I myself was scared of doing a medium depth chemical peel, I thought it was going to hurt. I only messed around with mild depth chemical peels for like 6 months. And at the time, the peels that they had, Benefit Peel had my absolute heart. And now I tend to use more of the essential peptide peel instead of Benefit Peel. But the other thing about Benefit Peel is if you've never had a chemical peel before and you're very nervous about them, because there's not really acids in it, there's no reaction. There's no, ooh, this has a bite to it, or ooh, this is spicy, or ooh, this is tingly. You don't have that with the Benefit Peel. It's quite neutral feeling. So that's why it's another also great chemical peel to start people out with. Now, with that being said, it's so funny. I can't tell you how many peel consults I've done with people. And they get nervous about the medium depth. So they're like, I really just I'm going to start mild. We're just going to stay mild. And this was back in the day so now what I do is I start everybody out with mild and I transition them into deep, to the medium depth. It's not an option. Unless this is not your first rodeo or you're extremely well prepped, I will not put a medium depth peel on you first until I've done a mild. But back then, what I would do before I have the information I have now, I would just get you really prepped with retinoids, and then we would just jump right into a medium depth peel. So you'd get the people that were like, I just don't really want to deal with that, so we're going to go mild. Well, by the third, like they'll come in for their third one and they're like, yeah, this is really boring and it's slow. And I'm like, yeah, I tried to tell you that. So once you've done a couple chemical peels, you realize that once it's not your first rodeo, it's not a big deal. You just do them. Yes, when you do the medium depths, your skin is going to fall off like a snake and it's amazing. I can't even tell you how phenomenal your skin looks 3 to 4 weeks post chemical peel. That's when the skin is the most radiant. It's because it's as soon as you peel it off, everything starts to kind of grow back on. Not to the point of where it was, but it starts to grow back on. So your skin starts to regenerate. So it's that 3 to 4 week where you're still really bright and glowy from the peel before you start getting more of the buildup back on there. And it looks amazing. I always tell brides you want to do your last chemical peel like a month before your wedding if you did like more of like a medium depth one. The other thing is that this is why it's really important to do series. If you want to just remove dead skin cells so your skincare works better, that's great. But if you're trying to make changes in the skin, you want to do a series, because what happens is every time you just peel your face, if you keep your peels far apart, you just peel to the same layer every time, right? Just keep going back to the same, or less, because you got more buildup, okay? When you do a series, now I'm peeled to here, and now I'm going to do another peel, and now I'm peeled to here, and do another peel, and now I'm peeled to here, because you've kept them close together. So that's why you eventually can get in and peel out pigment, peel out scarring, and make more structural changes in the tissues, because you can get in a little bit deeper each time. The two I decided to start with are Benefit and Deep Sea. Why did you switch to peptide? So I'll be perfectly honest. The reason why I tended to switch more over to Essential Peptide Peel over Benefit Peel is Benefit Peel doesn't smell so great now. It used to not smell like that. But what happens is they sourced they went to, a sourcing, and when they sourced that particular ingredient, it just came in smelling different because it's a plant-based line. Well, it doesn't smell good. So I tend to use Essential Peptide because I don't want to have to do the whole spiel of how I'm sorry that this kind of stinks. And Deep Sea Peel is amazing, but that absolutely is a medium depth peel and not for the faint of heart. I don't typically start anybody out on the Deep Sea Peel. We have a whole conversation. I put it on the top of their hands so they kind of know what to experience with it. Non-chemical peels that use spicules they're my favorite, but they're a completely different breed than chemical peels. Some people would rather just feel the burn of a chemical peel. Yeah, Katie's like, the Benefit, so I have to tell him, like, this is going to stink, I'm sorry. And the smell doesn't really dissipate. It kind of sticks with you, because I have everybody leave with the chemical peels on, because retinoid is a large molecule, and it takes time for it to drop down into the skin. All right, does anybody have any other questions? I can't even remember what I've mentioned on here because I did the earlier live, which the volume got cut off on, so now I'm re-recording. I think I talked with you guys about having chemical peel kits. I sell chemical peel kits. I live in Oregon. I can ship them. I think I did. Okay. Any other questions, beautiful humans? And I think chemical peels, once you start doing them, if you have acne, do them. Okay. But I don't until you start getting buildup, I really don't if you're doing really mild and light ones, totally 100%. But should a 23-year-old be doing a medium depth chemical peel when they don't have acne and they don't have texture issues? Hell no. Just do a mild chemical peel. I wouldn't do it. There's certain things that are appropriate for certain age groups. Just for example, I typically don't put people in retinoids under the age of 25. I'll put them on alpha hydroxy acids, but I don't really like to put, because you can only speed. The whole point of using a retinoid is to turn up the cellular turnover process. Well, at 23 years old, your cellular turnover process is at 28 days. You can't make it go faster. That's what it is for an adult, okay? Now, if they have acne, that's different, because how acne works is the skin is over proliferating in the pores and getting built up, and retinoids actually help with acne. They help dry it out. They help speed that, get the gunk out because it's too much buildup going on. But in general, do mild chemical peels till you get a little bit older. I can't wait to attack this pigment right here. I have been waiting. It came out more this summer, and it's because I did a deep sea peel on myself. Yeah, girl. I did a deep sea. I wish I knew how to say it's CLTSD Bestie. Okay, CLTSD Bestie. Okay, so I did deep sea peel on myself after I did a dermaplaning. Not recommended. I forgot I had a dermaplaning that day. And you can see here where I took the deep sea peel and went round and round and round and round, because I was attacking pigment that was down here, and it removed it beautifully. But look, it literally left a rainbow of pigment here. This is a PIH from a blemish. It's 4 months old now. But this one here is pigment, and all of this is pigment. But you can see, so now I got to do a deep sea peel where I really hit this area. But the deep sea peel is phenomenal at removing pigment, better than acid peels that I've seen. Okay, so for Aftercare, my whole thing with, I have 5 minutes because I got a skin consult. Okay, I'm a fan of the no water method. I had a training done. I've been doing chemical peels for 12 years now. And I've always how post-care used to be is you wash your face with gentle cleanser. You put a face balm on, put some sunscreen on, call it good. AM and PM, okay? And that's not how we do it now, people. I took this training class with Eileen. Her name was, what was her name? I'm such a jerk. Her mom developed the peel. Her mom's name is Eileen Brennan, and it's the Eileen Brennan Skin Renewal Peeling System. And she developed it in South Africa over 20 years. It's for every Fitzpatrick on the planet. It is phenomenal. It is uncomfortable, and it's extremely expensive. It's still amazing, and that's what I use for people's chests. I think it's phenomenal. So with this peel, she taught this no water method. And it was life-changing for me. The no water method I use is you don't use water on your skin. You want to think of your chemical peel kind of as a tattoo. You don't want to get water on it. You want to keep it moist with some type of, like, you know, they do like petroleum and things like that. But this is what I have people do. So I have you take like an old t-shirt or flour sack towels. And a flour sack towel you can cut up in 4 ways, or you can cut the t-shirt in like 6x6 squares. And what I have you do is use an oil. I only have you wash your face at night. I have you use an oil cleanser. You massage it into the skin. You then take one of these little wipes. You get it wet. You wring out as much water as humanly possible. And then you use that to wipe the oil cleanser off your face. After you do that, you put oil on your skin. And if the, just keep oil on your skin, okay? For the first day or 2. If the oil ends up not being enough, that's when you want to use a non-aqueous butter or balm. I find that the Anfisa balm does not work because it melts too much into an oil. Coconut oil does not work. It melts too much into an oil. Like, you need a balm. Cosmetics does make a product called Rescue that is amazing that I've used for years and years, but it does has a small amount of water in it. So because of that, I tend to try to keep it off people's skin for like the first 48 hours. Again, no water is key. Putting water on your face makes the skin flake faster. You don't want it to flake faster. You don't want it to peel faster. I, in my younger 30s, was always in a hurry to get the skin off the face, and I have learned that is not your goal. The longer the skin is left on, the better peel result you're going to have, because what happens is as soon as you peel, once you're freshly peeled and your skin hasn't been able to regenerate, you can actually create hyperpigmentation within 5 minutes of UV exposure. It's why when you first get a peel, your skin looks fucking amazing. And then you've enjoyed the sunshine, you wore your sunscreen, but you weren't as good as you should have been, and you went outside, and the areas that had lightened have now re-darkened, because when you peel your face, you got these cells that used to, like this area of skin that used to be pigmented because it felt like it was being traumatized. So I'm going to put more melanocytes in that area, and we're going to produce more melanin. So now I've taken the pigment out of there. And then that's at the point where the skin's like, oh, I'm okay. I don't need to produce more melanin in the area. I feel safe. I feel comfortable. But if you expose it to UV light, it instantly thinks, gosh darn it, I put pigment here for a reason, and now you removed it, and now I'm feeling traumatized, so now I'm going to start making more melanin, and I'm going to redarken that spot that you just lightened. So I have people nighttime cleansing, wear oil all throughout the day. I'm using my heavier oil. If oil is not enough, then you can start using a balm. And then I also have them use this product by iSun called Antioxidant Sun Butter. And it basically is an SPF zinc 27 with no water in it, butter, sunscreen. So I have them use oil. I have them use this butter. The other beauty about the butter is because it has no water in it, I'll use that sometimes over Rescue. And then also the zinc helps a little bit with inflammation. So I tend to do this no water method until you are, I say 50% peeled if you're a fits 3 or less. If you're a fits like 3.5 or more, I say wait till you're like 75% peeled. Then you can go back to using water and your normal skin. I say go back to using water. Once the skin is, if you're doing like more medium depth, once the skin is completely peeled off, then that's when you can go back into your normal skincare routine, except for exfoliating cleansers and retinoids and actives like that, your alpha hydroxy acids. You can bring those back in like 2 to 3 days after you've gone back to your normal skincare routine. I just hope I didn't confuse everybody. I was trying to get through it so fast. What's the best skin peel for a 49-year-old with oily skin and enlarged pores and thick skin, no pimples or pigmentation? Well, first I'm talking medium depth because she needs some serious work here. So I would start her out with a mild peel just to see how she responds and get her really prepped. And then I would start her out with 2 layers of Jesner and Timeless. And then the following peel, I would go as high as 5 layers of Jesner and Timeless. And then I would probably want to try the deep sea peel on her if she could tolerate it. You need Jesner on that girl. Jesner and Timeless for sure to really make a difference in her skin. Okay, and Larkin, that's my mama's maiden name. Alrighty, everyone, I have to actually go. I have a skin consult that I'm supposed to be in right now at 1 o'clock. Thank you all so much. Please tune in. I will be doing a peel application later tonight or tomorrow morning. I'm going to put a peel on my face so you can kind of see how one goes. And you can see it's not a big deal and you don't have to be scared. Light and love to you all.